So hi and welcome to this video, and as you can see already, it is going to be about the different types of twin flame and divine counterpart connections. And first I would like to introduce myself. My name is Janine, and I have been working as a spiritual coach since I was about 23 years old, so it's been a while. And during that time I have coached thousands of people on their soul connection journey. I am a twin flame myself. Also, I am an astrologer and a manifestation coach. And I've actively been channeling spirits since my early 20s, even though I always have been connected and interested in the other side ever since I was a child. And since then, since the early 20s, I've been working on my self-development and ascension journey. And first of all, I would like to apologize. There's going to be a lot of text. I actually just wanted to give you keynotes, but the problem is that when I created this presentation, you could say, I often fall into a channeling mode, and when I write, I often channel, so it just came out and I decided to keep it because that is just the most authentic for me. So let's talk about divine soul connections. Of course, there are several types of divine counterpart connections that we're going to cover, and in my opinion, they're all equal when it comes to preciousness. And I don't think that one connection is better than another. They're just different. There's different energy, and also there's no elite. So if you now find out that you are not in fact a twin flame, that is completely okay. It's just different, okay? It's not that one is better than the other. It's just different energies, and also the journey is a bit different, but that's okay. And twin flames are only one, or as I wrote, rather two different forms of divine counterpart connections, and you will see why I wrote about two, because we will be covering split twin flames and monadic twin flames. Okay, so there are some differences, but again, it's totally fine. They're all precious. And also the souls choose which experience they want to have prior to incarnation. And it is very important to know that the ego cannot choose which connection you are going to experience during your lifetime. It already has been decided by yourself, basically, not by nobody else. So if you're not a twin flame, you cannot suddenly become a twin flame. However, and we're going to talk about that too, you can attract a soul connection that has similarities to a twin flame, even though the soul ascension part may not be as big. However, you can manifest that as well if that is what you want. And we're also going to talk about some soul connections that are a bit harmonious than others, but again, they're all important, they're all precious, and your soul shows which ones you experience during your lifetime. And just like your higher self chose your parents, your gender, your skin color, your physique, your nationality, your sexual orientation, like if you're gay or straight or whatever, and there are other factors that cannot be changed. And then I wrote in there, if some things like gender nowadays, of course, can be changed by surgery, by hormone therapy, of course. But usually you cannot just change your gender, okay? Unless, of course, you go that way. But your soul chose if you're going to have a twin flame experience or not. However, anybody can manifest a divine counterpart connection, and we're going to talk about that as well. And the different connections, they have different purposes, and they provide a different earthly experience for the souls to grow and to ascend. All connections, however, can trigger an awakening and healing process, so it doesn't have to be a twin flame. Other connections can do that too. And for some soul connections, it is less about ascending, but more about living a harmonious life with a divine counterpart. And again, that comes to what did you choose prior to coming to this earth. And the universe talks to us through our desires, and everything we truly desire is something we can have, as long as we overcome our inner obstacles and old wounds and patterns and our limiting belief systems, of course. all of these connections can be lived in union in this lifetime. So please never, ever, ever listen to people who tell you, no, not all twin flames come together. It is true, yes, not all twin flames come together, but not because they're not meant to be together, but because people give up and they don't do the ascension work, or they put somebody on the pedestal of being a twin flame and labeled them, and wrongly labeled them, and then they didn't come together because that is not the divine counterparts, and they were not meant to be together. And again, all twin flames are divine counterparts, but not all divine counterparts are twin flames. And again, this does not make one connection superior to another, they're just different. But then why do we label them, or why do I kind of like label them in this video? Labels can be important, even they don't have to be. And in my opinion, if somebody is in a happy and fulfilled soulmate relationship and they think that they are twin flames, then there's no harm done, and I think just let them believe that. It is completely fine. We don't have to tell them, no, you're not twin flames. Okay? However, there's so many coaches out there who are not in authentic twin flame connections, even though they might be divine counterparts. And again, we're going to talk about different kinds, so you understand what I'm talking about. And then there are some who are actually selling themselves to be twin flames because it's an easy buck, you could say. And those are not fit coaches for twin flames, since they don't have the explicit twin flame experience. They have made some experience, yes, but not the twin flame experience. But if they give solid advice, then okay, that is fine as well. But many do create confusion, and unfortunately that way they can make it harder for others to follow their coaching. Some say that friends or family members can be twin flames. You may have heard that. And then there's others that say that everybody has one, and others say no, they're rare. Some say you can only have one twin flame, and then there's others, they say that you can have multiple twin flames. And what happened here is that people put different kind of soul connections in the same pot and just labeled them all twin flames. And that creates confusion, and I hope this video will clear things up. So my intention is not so much to label things, it is more to explain to you that many people put the same label on completely different things, and that can make it hard for you to find out, okay, what is it that I'm experiencing? But knowing what you can experience can actually help you going through that process, and that is my intention, not to clearly label, but to help you understand. Because if you know what you're going through, what it is, then you may get the right coaching or the right help that you need, or the understanding to help you through your individual journey. And the biggest problem is that there's stigma attached to the twin flame label. And as I mentioned before, I have many clients who put somebody on a massive pedestal, and they wrongfully think that this person is their twin flame, and then they stay in a toxic relationship. And that stigma can create damaging beliefs, and that keep people attached to toxic connections. There's the stigma that just because one person runs and the other one is clingy, the classical run and chaser dynamic, you've heard of it probably, that this is a twin flame connection, but more often it is trauma bonding. And even worse, many people are dealing with somebody toxic and maybe even narcissistic, even though I don't think that it's like a thing in the spiritual community to label everybody a narcissist right now. I am going to do a video about that as well, but of course they are real narcissists, okay? They do exist, of course. And if somebody attracts a divine counterpart, they have usually healed those issues before, because it's a divine counterpart, okay? And one needs a certain vibration in order to attract a divine and not distorted counterpart. If you're still in distorted energy because you have not healed, you cannot attract a divine counterpart. You will attract somebody who is distorted as well. And I just was talking about trauma bonding in the beginning. And divine connections can hurt as well. When not everything is healed yet, then there is going to be some mirroring, okay? So I'm not saying that in order to attract a divine connection, you have done 100% of your healing work, but you have you have done a great deal of that, okay? So that is very important to keep in mind. But in a divine counterpart connection, what hurts so much is not the other person is abusive in any way, physically or emotionally. What hurts is that we project our needs and wants onto that person, and they don't give us what we want, because we have to learn to fill those voids in ourselves first. It's like if you need love, you cannot attract somebody to give you that love or that security if you don't have it in yourself first. Yeah, divine counterparts, they are mirrors. Actually, any soul connection is, not just the twin flames. They are just even more extreme mirrors than other connections. And if we're not anchored in self-love, they cannot mirror us love and respect back. It's just not possible. If we do have a fear of abandonment, they simply cannot mirror stability and commitment. They have to withdraw until the wound is healed. And that's just basically the law of attraction, you could say. Yeah, you only can attract something that is matching your own inner beliefs and your own inner core. And yes, and I mentioned it, in the spiritual community now it seems to be in and appropriate to label others as narcissists, but this is a personality disorder that should be diagnosed by experts on that matter, not just anybody. But it doesn't necessarily make the other person a narcissist simply because they don't give you what you want. And yeah, you see the irony. Again, I'm going to do an entire video on that sometime. And divine counterpart connections are not toxic at all. They just hurt because our expectations don't get fulfilled until we changed our old beliefs and healed our hidden and unconscious wounds, but as well as the conscious ones as well. You know, if you know that you have had issues with your mother growing up and that is still not healed, then of course that would be mirrored back to you as well. And often the divine masculine pushes the divine feminine away, and they say something like, I never really loved you, I don't see you that way. And that is just the self-worth issue mirrored back to the divine feminine. And that can happen in toxic relationships and in divine relationships until those wounds are healed. But if the other person is abusive in any way, it is not divine. That is very, very important to remember. If the other person is abusing you, it is not a divine counterpart, because divine energy does not abuse. And for that reason, labels can be important to help those people figure out that they are not dealing with a twin flame, but with a karmic connection. And it is all about understanding when one goes through, and that understanding can give guidance on how to deal with these situations. And since different type of divine counterpart connections can have different lessons, it can help to understand and therefore gets to union faster. Or it helps to overcome a toxic situation, to learn the lessons, and then attracting a real divine counterpart. And that is basically where we all want to end up, right? We want to have that divine connection. So yeah, let's go a bit into the details. Into the metaphysics, the splitting of the souls. And you see here all that exists, okay? And this is basically source, God, whatever you want to call it. And that thing just split up. It split up once, you see it here, then it split up again and again and again and again. And that is all that exists. It's all part of source. Even the dot here, it still can be traced back to source. Sorry. So let's just talk about this. So we do have the split, and then we do have the non-physical. Okay, we do have the division. Sorry, I need to drink a sip of tea. The non-physical would be whatever you call spirits, angels, whatever label you want to use here. Okay, and then we do have the physical, which would be us, of course, but rocks as well, everything you can touch, okay, everything that has some physical substance, everything that can be touched would be part of the physical. And of course, you guessed it already, humans kind of part of both, because we do have a physical body, but we do have a non-physical soul energy as well. But to understand it better, we are just talking about the non-physical and the physical, and I put us humans in the part of the physical, okay? However, the way I intended it would be like the dots would be the physical, and then the lines would be the non-physical part of us. We can talk about that later. And then, yeah, we have the physical here. So let's go back. We just have like this here, okay? It's split and split and split. And then we do have objects like stones, anything, basically wood. And we do have sentient beings, like all kind of animals and humans as well, of course. So you see, we do have this part, and it just keeps on splitting again and again and again and again. And then there's this physical splitting into objects and sentient beings, and that keeps on splitting. And then we do have the sentient beings, and then we have, for example, I just labeled it as others, because those would be birds, reptiles, fish, etc. And then here we do have our sentient beings, that are all of these. And then here we have mammals, and the mammals energy is right now, it's just energy, right? It keeps splitting. Then we do have humans here, and then here we may have something like monkeys that are closely related to us, and we have all other mammals here. They all have their own, like, you know, it just keeps splitting. I hope I'm making this somewhat understandable. And then, yeah, a monad can also be called a soul family or a stream of consciousness. So a monad would be like this entire, you see, we do have humans here. Those are all humans. And then they split and split. This part split, and it split more and more and more and more and more. And the last splitting, you could say the soul family, is called a monad. And a monad comes from the Greek monas, or unit, and it is an elementary individual substance that reflects the order of the world and from which material properties are derived. The term was first used by the Pythagoreans as the name of the beginning number of a series from which all following numbers derived, and this is the source, Britannica.com. And when we talk about souls, we also call them can call them a stream of consciousness, and the more connected two souls are in higher realms, the closer the soul connection is. And they not only match the more physical realms, but also on higher realms. Okay, I'm going to talk about that more, so hopefully you will understand. And due to our earthly development, our energy fields that are closer to our physical body can change on higher levels. They are waveless alternating, which means we can manifest, or let's say we do have all our energies. Okay, you have, let's talk astrology. You have your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon sign, and other ones, and you can tap in more in one and more in the other. So you can, for example, sometimes be more shy and sometimes be more outgoing. So you can change your energy. Also, of course, you can change your look. You can gain weight, you can lose weight, you can grow your hair, cut your hair. There is some things that you can change with your energy. However, it is harder to change on higher levels. Okay, and keep that in mind, because that will be important later. And yeah, souls. The more connected two souls are in higher realms, the closer the soul connection is. And they're not only matched on the more physical realms, but also on higher realms, which means you can attract someone that is matching more like your earthly energies, and that could be a best match for you. But a higher soul connection will also mirror your energy on higher realms, but I'm going to show you that later, okay? Due to our earthly development, our energy fields that are closer to our physical body can change on higher level. They are way less alternating. Okay, here I have it. For example, this would all be part of you. This one not. This would be another soul, okay? But part of you, monad, which means your aura, let's say the aura that is closest to your body would be blue, and this is just example, okay? But on high realms it would be green, and then it would be yellow, and it would be orange, and like this would all be your soul, okay? Orange is the part of you that is closest to the divine, to source, and this is more like your individuality. But overall, you're orange, you're yellow, you're green, and you're blue. And again, don't mind the colors, okay? I'm just trying to show it to you in a way that is easier to explain and easier to understand. So don't mind the exact colors. I'm just trying to tell you you have different energies, okay? And this would be you, a monad that has green energy as well, and it has yellow energy as well, and it has orange energy as well. So this is all part of your soul before the splitting, but this would be you individually. All of this information was important to explain a different type of soul connections. Let's go there. Let's talk about soulmates first, okay? Soulmates are the most common type of soul connections. And we do have many, many soulmates. They can be family members, friends, lovers, mentors, whatever, okay? They can be our best friends, but also our biggest enemies, since they come to teach us something about ourselves. And you have had many past lives, or more or less past lives, with your soulmates. And that can be instant soul recognition in romantic connections, even love at first sight. So if you meet somebody and there's this instant recognition, it does not have to be a twin flame. For example, I had that with my best friend, and we are both girls, and we both are heterosexual. However, there was this instant soul recognition, like trusting one another right from the start. You will usually like or dislike them right away, since the soul remembers encounters from past lives. Soulmates, they can hold many different vibrations, and some of them are closer to your own, others are complementary. Some are both. You are similar in some aspects and complementary in others. Then there's soulmates that are off, they're mismatched. And this can, of course, provide you with lessons as well. Sorry, there's a spelling mistake. But if they're a mismatch, then of course you can learn from them, because there can be some kind of chaos going on. Yeah, soulmates. I like to put animals here. So soulmates can be like all kind of different animals. They can be like really fast. You know, they can be like those kinds you want to do with a lot. They can be funny. You can go deep with them. You can fly high with them. They're just different kind of vibrations, different kind of energies. Okay, your soulmate can be very similar to you, and however, they can be very different from you as well, and they can still be harmonious, but also could be very chaotic as well, of course. So that is what I took for soulmates, many different kind of pictures. Because again, soulmates, they can be so different from another. And then we have this is you, okay? And by the way I thought it would be like the right would be the feminine energy, not gender necessarily, because the feminine energy can be incarnated in a masculine. However, this would be the feminine energy and this would be the masculine. So if you, for example, are a feminine, if not, just turn it around, you can attract a counterpart that would be blue as well. Like I chose different colors of blue because there are some similarities. There are different shades of blue, but they're still blue. And then they can be completely different, because the complementary of blue would be orange. And I'm going to talk about that later. But they could be another primary color, or they could be purple has blue in it, for example, but it is not blue. You know, green has blue in it as well. So it could be complementary, or could have some aspects of you. And yeah, every soul has a unique vibration or color that nobody else in the universe shares. The only exception are the rare Monadic Twin Flames. So you could be anywhere on the circle. You're just a tiny dot anywhere, okay? And a soulmate can be anywhere on the color wheel. Parents, family members are usually soulmates, even though they don't always get along. So if you have a problematic connection to your family, they are probably still soulmates, most likely. A divine counterpart soulmate would be either somewhat similar in energy or complementary. They can be from the same monad, as we had it here, or a different one. All is fine. Yeah, I showed it here. So if this would be you, it could be like anything, and it could be like a complete different monad, you know, even from a higher splitting. It's all better because you see here, there's like greenish colors as well, so they could still be a good match for you. I chose this color wheel, please ignore the numbers. So let's say we have this red here, and the soulmate could be like this, next to you, down here, there, but it could also be complementary, like this would be complementary to that. And I said earlier, blue, the complementary of blue is orange, because we have blue and the primary colors are blue, red and yellow and red are the other ones that make orange. But basically a soulmate could be from all over the spectrum, okay, everywhere basically. Some just maybe are way off, but however a soulmate can be anything, but a harmonious one would be like more similar to you or complementary, like anywhere in this. If you are in this area, they would be in this area as well, or anywhere here most likely. Or if you're here, they will be somewhere over here or here as well. Soul twins, that is a special connection. It's a very close soulmate connection, and soul twins are very similar in vibration, even though they're not complementary. Okay, you can have several soul twins, and soul twins can be romantic partners, friends, or family members. And romantic soul twin connections, there's soul recognition and often love at first sight, and the other person is very similar, often, but not always. They kind of even look alike. And these connections are especially harmonious. However, if one has unresolved traumas, issues, they can be triggering as well. Any soul connection can be. And this triggering will not be any kind of abusive behavior, but most likely a runner and chaser dynamic. If fear of loss and abandonment is the wound that gets mirrored, of course. Soul twins in love connections are usually best friends as well, and they have the potential to stay together till the end of their lives, unless they start to live more like brother and sister and decide to split up, but still stay friends, because again, there's a very strong loving connection. Usually a very loving and caring connection with a lot of respect for each other, and they're very harmonious, and they're at the same wavelength, you could say, and there's usually no big drama. There's usually not the on and off and playing game stuff, and you have spent many lives together and you feel the sense of being home with each other. And they often get confused with twin soul and twin flame connections due to the strong pull and soul recognition. And yeah, have you ever heard of those twin flames that get easily together? And yeah, that would be them. And you see twin flames in those quotation marks. They can, but they don't have to, in some cases, be a catalyst to prepare for a twin flame connection. And they would then trigger a first spiritual awakening to prepare for meeting a twin and for the twin flame journey. So that can happen, that they actually don't get together, but they do prepare for the real deal. And I chose the buffalo here, the water buffalo, because I once read that water buffaloes, you remember the soulmate, I chose all kind of animals, and with the water buffalo, the soul twins, I once read that water buffaloes, they don't have any stress hormones at all. And that just reminds me of soul twins, because again, very harmonious usually, there's no big drama, it's just chilled. And if you are blue, for example, again, it could be any color, just any energy. I'm just trying to do it in a visible way. You know, how do you show energy, right? So I just chose colors to do that as an example. But if you would be blue and you would be feminine, then again, we're talking energy, not gender, then you would attract a masculine energy that is also somewhat blue. And as I said, here we have like orange, yellow, greenish one. They would be within the same proximity because they're very similar in vibration. And again, if you're here, they would be either there, or there. They would be close to you. Let's talk about split twin flames. And here I made it going from white to black. It's a lot of yin yang. Split twin flames have been one soul for a long time until they split into two. And remember, we started the video with how I show like everything comes from source, and then it just split up and split up and split up and split up, okay? Important is they're not half souls, they are complete. Everybody has a split twin flame, but not all are incarnated at the same time, and not all are meant to meet in this lifetime. I just used the example of mitosis. You probably did that in biology, or another example could be identical twins. Okay, we do have a cell that then splits like this. You know, there's the mother cell, and then you see we do have two identical, but they're not half cells. They are just in each self, perfect and whole. And many people think that the twin flame is half of their soul or the other half of their soul. That is not true. Okay, you're not a half soul. That does not happen. You're always complete. Even monadic twin flames, we're going to talk about those later. They work different than split twin flames. However, the other person is not the other half of your soul. Half souls don't exist. Split twin flames meet to trigger and heal oppressed trauma. The connection can be very painful until the lessons are learned and the feminine energy learns to let go, which does not mean give up, but simply surrendering and giving the connection to the divine. For those who have dealt with a soul twin, a second phase of awakening is getting triggered if you have a soul twin and then meet your split twin flame. For others, it might be the first, unless they already had a first awakening. Nevertheless, it does propel the development and initiates a cleansing process. This process is often getting triggered due to the typical runner and chaser dynamic. The split twin is a perfect mirror to show all the hidden shadows aspect and brings them to light. Another triggering factor is that often, but not always, at least one of the split twin flames is already in an established relationship when they first meet. Yeah, fun fact, even the ancient philosopher Plato wrote about these split twin flames. This phenomenon has been known for thousands of years, so you can research on Plato about these split twin flames. In my language, I am German, we call them Dualseelen, which translates to duality souls. And many people falsely use this term synonymous to twin flames, but it is a different kind of soul connection. So even in Germany, many say duality soul or twin flames, but it's different. Split twin flames absolutely can come together, and there's only two reasons that could hinder this. First, the divine feminine is unable to free herself from her shadows and old programming and stays stuck in victim mentality, blaming the masculine for whatever he does that triggers her and mirrors her insecurities. Second, the divine feminine is one of the rare monadic twin flames, or just twin flame, and the split twin flame was another catalyst to prepare her for her twin flame. And since those can only be attracted once, she has overcome all of the trauma. For that reason, a duality soul or split twin flame can, in those cases, be a catalyst twin flame. When I realized that my catalyst was not my real twin flame, and that duality souls and twin flames are actually not the same kind of soul connection, the only useful information I could find back then was the one on catalyst twin flames. But not since everybody has a monadic twin flame, and split twin flames are way more common, the word catalyst doesn't make sense to those for whom the split twin flame is the closest soul connection they have. You can have multiple soul twins, we already covered that, but only one split twin flame. Split twin flames often, but not always, even look opposite. The German name duality soul makes sense since they're complementary in many regards, but still a perfect match once the shadow aspects are healed and they can unite. However, they have things in common as well, since for a long time they actually were one soul, but the split in feminine and masculine energy, so they are the same yet polar opposites. If they had nothing at all in common, they wouldn't be a good fit, but it is the perfect fit. For that reason, in split twin connections, the feminine energy is often very feminine and the masculine energy is often very masculine. The feminine energy can be incarnated in the male body and vice versa. Again, it has nothing to do with biological gender. Of course, there can be homosexual split twin flames as well. Still, one holds the feminine and one the masculine energy. Again, for most people, the split twin is the closest soul connections in their existence. It is the perfect fit. Split twin flames are romantic connections, and they're not family or friends connections. So again, if people tell you, oh, twin flames can be friends or family, no, those people confuse them with soul twins because they can be romantic. But split twin flames, they can be friends and family. Split twin flames are strictly romantic because there's usually sexual chemistry as well. Even though they have their own souls, but they share the oversoul in their own bodies, they're connected through cords that connect all of their main chakras. Split twin flames know each other very well and can sense the other person's thoughts and or moods. There can be telepathy and or a reading of the other person's feelings and moods. They understand each other blindly. Often there's a strong sexual chemistry, and that would just be weird if it would be a relative, right? I mean, that would be weird. When they meet, they are all souls that usually volunteered to clear a lot of ancestral karma, so they often, but not always, had more or less severe traumatic experiences in their childhood or youth. They clear the energy of family trauma to make it easier for following generations. It is a false premise the divine feminine has to wait for the divine masculine to wake up and be ready. She is like a magnet. Once she is in her power, she will attract union. Her magnetizing energy will be stronger than his fears, and he has to come forward. And if you learn more about manifestation and Neville Goddess theories, then you know why, because she is changing the timeline where he is ready. Instead of waiting for him, she needs to work on her own issues and limiting self-beliefs, or any limiting beliefs. The divine feminine determines when it is time for union and not the divine masculine. Why? Because the feminine is the one who goes forward, and again, she is changing the timeline where the divine masculine is basically waiting for her. Every change in her energy system will immediately get mirrored back to her by a divine counterpart or any time of divine counterpart. I wrote immediately in brackets because sometimes it's not immediately. If there's still like limiting belief systems, it can take a moment for it to come, but it will get mirrored back 100%. If he just waits for him to suddenly appear without doing the work, she may wait for years or decades. And again, I have been coaching so many clients, thousands, and some call me and they have already been waiting for decades. Some call me, they're like, yeah, I know this person since like 30 or 40 years and they're still on a journey. Why? Because they still haven't cleared their issues. So please do it. And that is one reason why I'm doing this video, because I want to help you get to your union. It is her job to draw him in. It is not his job to come when she isn't ready. Yeah, of course, I'm not just talking about her ego, who will pretty much always think that she's ready. Again, I've talked to thousands of people. So I get that a lot. Yeah, I'm ready. The ego will pretty much always think that she is ready, but I'm talking about being in the vibration of self-love and trust in this connection. And she already has healed her past trauma, at least to a great extent. It doesn't have to be 100%. They get to do some work together, but the major stuff needs to be done already. Then and only then will she be able to draw him in and stay in union. And that's the thing, you can attract your person, but if you haven't done your work and you still have fear of abandonment, they will leave. They have to mirror that fear of abandonment to you. And if you're wondering why it is her job, the feminine energy is the more spiritual energy and the masculine is the more anchored in the matrix energy, and she is the way shower. So yeah, okay, so they're coming from here. We have the split, and this was before they split, okay? And I chose orange and blue because those are the split twin flame colors. You probably often heard this, right? The blue is the feminine, orange is the masculine. So they were one soul, and I chose this dot here. It had both energies, and we do have the soul here. This would be the body. I'm not saying that they were like hermaphrodites, okay? Because any soul can inhabit both energies. Even if you are born a woman, you do have an inner masculine and vice versa. And then they split. Okay, they split, and we do have one soul that is more masculine, one is more energy. However, remember the yin yang symbol, both of course still have part of the other. It's just easier for me to show you that way. Okay, so we do have split twins here. Again, there were one soul, and then there's two souls, and they're perfect. But they do have one, they haven't shared oversoul. Okay, this would be the oversoul that they share. And yeah, I chose zebras for them because of the black and white. And of course, it is very yin-yang energy, of course. So that's just the association I had. You may have your own association, of course. It just, the image that popped into my mind that split twin flames are little zebras. And of course, a split twin flame, if you would be here, if you split twin flame, would be complementary. It would be the green. If you were here, it would be this. If you're here, they would be this. So, or if you would be here, up here, it would be up there. Okay, they would always, if you're here, then they're this complementary energy. So they're always complementary. If you're here, you get the point. It would be this energy. Okay, let's talk about monadic twin flames. And yeah, this is the rarest, by far rarest form of twin flames. There have been rumors that they are part of the 144,000. I don't know. It could be. I don't know. There are romantic connections always. They're not friends or family members, just like split twin flames. And those are ancient souls who either met at the end of their incarnation, earthly, like the earthly incarnation cycle, or who are already ascended masters that came to Earth on mission to help in the mass awakening that is happening right now. And monadic twin flames in this lifetime, okay, we're talking about this lifetime, they only meet after they have gone through a massive awakening process. And this is why they often meet later in life. So if you're like 17, no, you have not. Well, maybe you have met your monadic twin flame shortly, but then you will meet them again in like 20, 30 years. You know, then sometimes they do have like a meeting in young life and then split up because they're not awakened to this connection yet. Whereas the split twin journey is about awakening and healing, the monadic twin journey is for ascension. You see the difference? However, before they meet, they have gone through this awakening and healing process. So if you still are dealing with being in a toxic relationship, most definitely not a monadic twin flame. If you still have serious fears of abandonment, you're not dealing with a monadic twin flame, okay? You can only attract that if you have healed that stuff. And even though it is a romantic connection, they came here with a big mission. Not saying other soulmates don't come with a mission. They may have if it's in your soul plan, but here it's always the case. Split twin flames are joined through energy cords that connect the chakras, and monadic twin flames share their energy centers. So they're not just connected, they actually share them. And when they met, there's an instant soul recognition. Split twins can have that as well, of course. And they often dream of their twin flame, or they have some kind of premonition before their first meeting. And that is first meeting usually is quite unusual and divinely guided. What happened to me, for example, was I meditated I remember it was in 2009 in summer. And it was the Archangel Uriel that came to me and told me that he said the other half of your soul, but again, there is no half souls, okay? Just to make it clear, back then I didn't know about twin flames. I knew about soul connections, of course, soulmates, but not about twin flames. And he showed me the image of my higher self always showed itself as a silver dragon. He showed me the image of a golden dragon and said, find the golden dragon, find the sun dragon, sun and moon energy. And he said to me that person would already be in my life. And then years later, after I had gone through the split twin, first I had the soul twin journey, then the split twin journey. And while I was still in this connection, I had I went to an event, or bought a ticket to an event, and that guy that I knew existed but never had met before, my twin flame, was at that event. And the moment I bought that ticket, I had this sudden Kundalini awakening, and I knew that going to that event would change my life for forever. And I thought, well, I would probably not even see that person, but of course we did. We locked eyes. And so there is something like that. You just know that something is going to happen in some kind of way, even if you have never like seen this person before. You just have this gut feeling something big is going to happen. Maybe you have some premonition, maybe you have a sudden Kundalini awakening, and that is actually something that happens with Monadic Twin Flames. And that is also something where you can know not every person who has a sudden Kundalini awakening has a Monadic Twin Flame, but every Monadic Twin Flame, at least the feminine, goes through this sudden Kundalini awakening shortly before they meet or shortly after they meet. So there's this connection. And again, the connection is divinely guided. You just have the gut feeling to do something, to go to a place you never went before, for example. You just have the urge to go somewhere or do something. And Monadic Twin Flames, they usually look somewhat alike, and body morphing can happen. You know that their physique changes and they look more similar. They're starting to look more and more alike the longer that they are connected. And both Twin Flame, that is important, both have the instant soul recognition that usually happens in the first eye contact. So it's not just the feminine. If you have met your person and they didn't react in any way, not your Monadic Twin Flame, okay? It shakes both of them up in some way. Even if the first meeting was more important for the feminine to wake up or to go through a process, and the masculine basically joins the journey later on, the first eye contact does something to both of them. I once heard that they were twin souls before they meet, but upon the first meeting, or even right before the connection gets ignited, and when the first eye contact, the fire, the passion in them, and for the other person starts burning, and they become twin flames. So they were twin souls because they always had been twins. The moment they see each other, it gets ignited, and they turn into twin flames. Extremely strong sexual chemistry, okay, very, very strong. Again, that would be weird if your Monadic Twin Flame would be your brother, sister, mother, father, cousin, whatever. That would just be weird. Even though they may be separated in the beginning of the journey, it is by far not as painful as the split twin connections, since the trauma connection to abandonment and loss is already healed or nearly healed. For the most part, it is blissful even in separation. So there's not that big trauma going on. There is a feeling of belonging, but there's not possessiveness. You feel that they are part of you even in separation. Which means if you're in pain and devastated because you're separated, then you're not dealing with a Monadic Twin Flame connection. You may be dealing with a split twin or another form of soul connection. There is longing for the other one, but the deep inner knowing of connection predominates by far. True twin flames know that they are not separated. Even therefore, there's no pain, and maybe only on very, very bad days, because again, we're human. We do have an ego, of course. Even if you are on the ascension journey, there may be bad days or hours, maybe only, but there's not whole phases where you're just completely devastated. And the telepathy is even stronger than in split twin connections, and this connection is never toxic in any way. There's no abuse, physical or mental whatsoever. It is extremely harmonious. What can hurt is that the other twin flame triggers the other, not due to their behavior, but due to rest of old programming and the situation itself. What can be triggering in the beginning of the connection are the differences. There's usually or often something like huge age gaps, religious differences, cultural differences, class differences, heterosexual meeting a same-sex twin, and then they have to deal with that, for example. Yeah, imagine you're heterosexual and then all of a sudden you're a woman, all of a sudden your Monadic Twin Flame is another woman. That can happen. These triggers are important to make conscious of some biased beliefs that can be transformed now. It could also be something like a person who was abused in some way as a child by somebody who had tattoos or red hairs or blue eyes, and then due to that drama they always repulse that, but then your twin flame has these physical traits, and of course those are just examples. Okay, but imagine you get abused by somebody who has red hair, and then you have this fear of red hair, and it's unconscious, for example, but it's not because the person is not abusing you just because they have red hair. It just it's triggering you because there's this often you don't even connect that, and you have to do some soul searching to find out, okay, why am I triggered here? Or that mean kid from school that bullied you was Scandinavian, and then your divine counterpart, your monadic twin flame, is from Scandinavia. Or you were attacked by a bulldog as a child, and your twin flame has a dog that looks just like that. It could be something like that. There could be some trauma that is not healed, and then the twin flame is not abusing you, but something about them just triggers that unconscious drama in some way. And dimension differences are meant to be, since twin flames volunteered to demonstrate that in true love, old paradigms do not matter. They came to overcome those boundaries and to set examples as well. True love knows no age gaps, cultural class, or religious differences, or anything like that. Love doesn't care about heterosexuality, homosexuality, pansexuality, or whatever that is just part of the cultural ego mind. Love doesn't care about skin color. They came to end those cultural programs and prejudice, not by fighting them, but as a positive example. Monadic twin flames are a lot alike in their core, and they had very similar experiences in life. However, the same experiences can be polar opposite. And this is just an example. One twin grew up in a poor single mother family, and mom had to work a lot to provide and was hardly there. The other one grew up in a rich family with a nanny, and mom wasn't really there either. So it could be completely different class systems, but still same issue. Mom wasn't there emotionally. However, around the time of the first meeting, they might go through a sudden Kundalini awakening. They quickly ascend. That is also something how you realize you're going through a high soul connection. The quick ascension process. They don't really need coaching because they're connected to the divine. They're coached by spirit directly. So if you constantly see coaching, like every day or like all the time, you're probably not in a monadic twin flame connection. Even if you're in a monadic twin flame connection, of course, maybe you sometimes need somebody to look from the outside to find a blind spot. But a lot of it is just unfolding on your inner beliefs, because remember, if you meet your monadic twin flame, you already have been through the awakening process. So you are already connected to spirit. Even though they are all knowing, they still might go through an awakening process if they have volunteered to clear family karma and collective karma. For that reason, they often have traumatic childhoods. Something is off here with my grammar, sorry. Yeah, even if they are knowing, they came here already connected to spirit. So they already have this connection, but they're still going through some awakening stages. For example, they might meet the soul twin, the split twin, or something like that to further on, because there's not just one awakening process, there's a couple. There's just not one, oh, now I know it all. And also this awakening process is important to clear family karma, and they often have traumatic childhood connections as well, just like the split twin flames. However, experiencing trauma in childhood does not automatically mean somebody is a twin flame, of course. All soul connections can have their own signs and synchronicities, but with monadic twin flames, they are off the charts. You get bombarded by signs and synchronicities. And even though they have those differences on the outside, they are the same person on the inside. They have the same values, similar interests, similar way of thinking, etc. When they learn to see past the differences, they realize that the other person is exactly what they always wished for. And usually twin flames are prepared for the energy of their twin, and they encounter people with similar energies beforehand. They're usually pretty balanced in their masculine and feminine energy. Like, for example, split twin flame, if one is the green one over here, the other one would be the matching green, or blue and blue, you know. This is like the more masculine, the more feminine. And the more feminine a split twin is, the more masculine the other is. And the more they're getting to the center, the more the other person is getting to the center as well. And monadic twin flames, they are already pretty close to the center. They both usually have a very strong feminine and masculine energy inside of them. Of course, one is a bit stronger than the other, but they're usually pretty balanced. And yeah, some often they become or are somewhat public figures to be able to affect many, but public can be relative. The mayor or doctor in a small town can also be considered a public person, or the teacher of a college or a professor. Of course, those are public places as well. And then, of course, it could also relate to social media or celebrity status even. So yeah, I was talking about these soul connections and monadic twin flames. Monadic because they have a monad. So this is the soul. And only a small, they're still connected. They're still connected. And only a small part of them, the physical and the energy bodies closest to the actual body, they are split. Okay, we have the gold for the masculine, the sun energy, and the silver, the moon energy for the feminine. And I told you they are connected on all levels. If you see a little gap here, that was not intended, I'm sorry. But they are still connected on all higher realms, and just the physical is separate. This means monadic twin flames don't simply have energy cords between the energy bodies, but they share the same energy bodies except for the ones closest to the body. Yeah, I just said that. They're one soul incarnated into two bodies. That's the difference. Split twin, they were one soul and now they're two. But since they have been one, of course, they still feel the strong bond. Monadic twin flames are still one soul. There has no split happened, okay? No split. They are one soul incarnated in two bodies. There has been no split except in the 3D, since they're incarnated in separate bodies. And if you were wondering how monadic twin flames can have gone through the split twin experience if they hadn't been split, yes, they are on a higher level, of course. I mean, you know, this is just a tiny part. This goes on, you know, this is not sourced directly. So there have been splittings, of course. Yeah, if they have gone through the split twin flame, then they either met another monadic twin flame that is not theirs, but somebody else's monadic twin flame, or they attracted an energy very similar to theirs to go through the split twin flame awakening journey in order to prepare for the monadic twin flame. And that, of course, was all part of the divine before incarnation. So you see, this would be like the other one. The feminine may have attracted a masculine. I don't know why this is the other way now. Doesn't matter. Yeah, the silver and gold. I don't know why I changed sides. Ignore that. But maybe you would have attract another masculine to go through the split twin awakening process, because there will be similar energy somewhat. Twin flames are not similar in vibration. They are the same vibration. No other soul in existence is like them. And maybe you see there's like this tiny dot here. The other ones, they had like a circle, or they were complementary, and there is just, they are the same vibration, and no other soul in existence can have the same vibration as them. Others may be similar to them, because again, if you have this tiny spot here, then there's others that are very similar right around there, but no one else is just like them. I chose giraffes for the monadic twin flames. First of all, because they're very tall and they have more sight than others. They are awakened they are ascended or on the ascension journey, so the giraffes, they see a lot, so that is one of the reasons. And then also imagine all of the growing pain. When you were a teenager and you grew, you remember growing pains. Imagine all of the growing pain to go through a giraffe. So this is not an easy journey. It's not for the faint-hearted. It requires a lot of shadow work. Usually there has been a lot of trauma in childhood or later in life going on that they volunteered to clear for the family they were born in, like split twins, but also for the collective. And then of course there is the own shadow work, and so yeah, that journey can be painful until you reached a certain level, of course. So that is why I chose giraffes. Some people were either monadic twin flames, split twin flames, or in another form of divine counterpart connection resonate with being starseeds. I personally resonate with the soul archetype of the wise ones, souls that have incarnated on earth for thousands of years as spiritual guides, medicine people, shamans, mediums, astrologers, etc. Okay, mirror souls. Mirror souls is another divine connection. Mirror souls are a type of divine counterparts that is like a soul twin, very similar to one's own frequency, but they can be from another monad, whereas a soul twin would be from the same monad. That means that all soul twins are mirror souls, but not all mirror souls are soul twins. They're quite similar to soul twins, even though they can be less harmonious when there is unhealed trauma. Of course, a sort of instant soul recognition and love at first sight can happen here as well, since the souls instantly recognize the very similar frequency of the other person. Mirror souls can be confused with twin flame connections, especially if a person was intentionally trying to manifest a twin flame relationship, even though it was not in a divine plan before incarnating. You can still incarnate. If you want to have a divine soul connection, you can incarnate that, and then you would most likely manifest a mirror soul connection. Due to the power of manifestation, they can go through a similar journey as split twin flames do, since it was intentional or unintentionally manifested by the desire to experience a twin flame connection. When somebody is either consciously or subconsciously, they may not know what a twin flame is, but yearn for that one person that completes them, trying to manifest a twin flame, but they are either aren't a monadic twin flame or their split twin is not incarnated at the same time, this is most likely the kind of soulmate or divine counterpart connection that they are going to attract. Since mirror souls are a lot alike in frequency, these connections are also typically harmonious unless one has a lot of unhealed baggage, then they will of course get mirrored. The mirror soul will have similar unhealed baggage, so that they can mirror both the good and the bad to each other. However, when healing the oppressed emotions, the mirror soul will mirror this back and the connection can become harmonious. Don't expect to attract a perfect person who will help you out of your dilemma. It is you who needs to get out in order to attract somebody who has left their hurts behind as well. Trauma bonding can easily happen here if there is unhealed trauma. The trauma bonding and mirroring of traumas may be another reason why people confuse them with split twin flame connections, since the split twin relationship has the stigma of wandering chasers. And also it's a bit sad that these divine connections are often belittled to that tiny aspect only. They are way more because they are also the perfect match. The runner and chaser episode can happen in any kind of connection if there is unhealed trauma. Okay, so it does not have to be a split twin. If one has unhealed abandonment issues or fear of loss, it is impossible to attract a stable relationship. It doesn't matter what label you want to give it. Somebody who is energetically clingy can only attract a person who runs and helps them deal with their issues by doing so. Unless both are clingy, then they're not divine counterparts, because there's no development happening here, and divine counterparts come to develop, and if both are clingy, of course there's nothing going on that would trigger some kind of healing process. When both are at a good place emotionally, content within themselves, at peace, in self-love, free from abandonment issues, that is always the requirement to attract union with any kind of divine counterpart, then they can have a happy, fulfilled, lifelong relationship. One can have several mirror souls. They can be friends as well, in some cases distant family, but family members are usually from the same monad. So yeah, they can be, if this is you, like this would be the split twin, of course, but it can be this one from the same monad, anywhere here, of course, and they can be from a whole different monad. So this is, you see, it's just all blue, you know. And remember, these soul twins, they were all from here, and the mirror souls can be completely different monad. A short note to shadow or dark twins. This happens when somebody was desperately looking for a twin flame and then falsely labeled someone a karmic connection as a twin flame. There are other type of soul connections that can be similar and who mirror the unhealed stuff back, and that is trauma bonding going on. A person might find similarities between themselves and the other person and then wrongfully label them a twin flame. You know, as I said before, there are other connections. You only attract what you send out, so you can only attract somebody who is complementary, like in a relationship, somebody who is complementary or in a similar frequency. And if you are distorted, then you will attract somebody who's distorted and a mismatch. Yeah, this may not be surprising. According to the law of attraction, we always attract someone or something that mirrors our own vibration. Therefore, it is plausible to attract somebody who is similar to oneself. This mirroring can, of course, show our good qualities, but also our shadow or unhealed qualities. Just because someone is like-minded, it does not automatically mean that they are a twin flame. Yeah, I wanted to talk a bit about myself here, just to help you understand. Yeah, after I met my Monadic Twin Flame, I felt very drawn to astrology. I had been interested in astrology when I was like 15 for a while, but that is when I got really into it. And after I learned everything about my own birth chart, I started to learn about soulmate astrology, and I was disappointed in the limited information I found about soulmate astrology, or like twin flame astrology to be precise. I dissected my own birth chart and the one of my twin flame, and at that point I hadn't realized what we were, and that, sorry, I lost my my train of thought. I dissected my own birth chart and the one of my twin flame. At this point I hadn't realized that we were twin flames. I have had a split twin connection, and I thought that that person was my twin flame, and I was confused, but all of a sudden I stopped feeling that connection when my real twin flame came into my life. I told you that some people have this, those people who are monadic twin flames, the feminine, most likely had a split twin flame journey. And I thought that that person would be my twin flame back then, because I didn't know the difference between split twin and monadic twin flames. And so I dissected I met this new guy that had always kind of like been in my life, but just not really. And I had the Kundalini awakening, I had this premonition, I had this strong feeling of being connected to him that I couldn't explain. And I didn't understand, because I thought I already had this twin flame, that man I loved, and by the way was not toxic towards me, very important, and very kind guy, of course. I always like the kind ones. And yeah, I started getting into astrology, and I didn't understand this new connection, of course, and I stopped feeling the other connection right away, and I was confused. And then I saw all of the crazy synchronicities with my real twin flame, and also in the astrology, of course, and I had less or different kind of synchronicity with the other person. And yeah, in the beginning I thought that I had failed my twin flame journey, even thought that I had, but I felt was, sorry, I'm just focused. At that point I thought that I had failed my twin flame journey because the other person came into my life, and at that time I was at a very good point in my life, so I was not, I had healed the biggest fears. I was trusting in the divine. The abandonment issues were like mostly healed. So I was at a very, very good place, and I was fine with their separation, and I was in complete trust that that person would come back to me. And then all of a sudden I felt that insanely intense connection to the other guy that at first I thought I could never ever end up with. And I was very confused, and I felt like the universe took this very special connection that had been going on for 9 years from me and thrusted that other person onto me. I felt this strong connection to the other person, to the real Monadic Twin Flame. And then I had the Sun Kundalini awakening right before I met my real Twin Flame. The bond and the inner knowing that him and I belonged together was there right away, right after the Kundalini awakening that I had in that moment where I bought the ticket to participate at that event where I knew he would be. And my soul knew. It was just my ego that was confused, of course. And yeah, that can be one of the problems with labels. I labeled the other person my twin flame. He is my split twin flame because all these signs are there. Was the intense, how do you call it? Telepathy and all of these signs I explained earlier. And I was even more confused when I really analyzed our birth charts, and I found that everything was connected with my true twin flame. Everything was connected. Why did I have that many more connections to the new guy whom I thought to be just a soulmate, that with the person I thought to be my twin flame? And when you're dealing with a Monadic Twin Flame, it will most definitely show in your horoscopes, definitely. I knew from the beginning that if twin flames share the same energy, it must show in astrology and numerology and other things as well, of course. So I started researching and channeling about Divine Counterpart and Twin Flame astrology. About a month after I started analyzing our horoscopes, I realized that we were twin flames. I suddenly remembered a text that I had read years prior to that about Dualseelen, the split twin flames or catalyst twin flames, in German the duality twin. And that those who have a Monadic Twin Flame and successfully finish their journey with them then attract the Monadic Twin Flame. That text hit me like running against a brick wall, and I immediately knew that that was what was happening to me. And yeah, there was a lot of swearing going on that day. I was not happy in that moment. I was a bit overwhelmed. And then the same day I went grocery shopping, and it was like a 20-minute walk to the store and back home, like each way. And I saw all of the numbers multiple times, the triple and quadruple ones, twos, all of them till nines. And yeah, probably like 40 to 50 times in that short. There was like one after the other, and it was crazy. And yeah, for me it was in February 2019. And ever since I've done a lot of research and channeling, of course. And yes, you absolutely feel when you meet your twin flame, but that wasn't enough for me. Because if you watch videos on YouTube, how do you know it's your twin flame or you feel it? Yes. But the ego can be so quick to fool us. And as I have established, other close soul connections or trauma bonding can feel somewhat like a twin flame. So you only really know the difference when you experience it. So all of the informations I found saying you simply know they were not good enough for me. Sharing the same energy would show I knew it. I wanted to find tangible proof, not just for myself, but also to end confusion for others. And this is one of the reasons that inspired me to make this video. And I know it's long, but it's a lot to cover. I actually finished filming this video a while ago, but there is something I need to add. And I need to talk about catalysts, because I read in some Facebook groups that some people made the experience of a catalyst and confused it with a twin flame. Yes, a twin flame is a catalyst always, but not every catalyst is a twin flame. And sometimes it can get confused. When you have a catalyst in your life, then of course that person needs to make a massive impact in your life. There is probably some kind of sudden soul recognition, this deep bond, maybe telepathy and stuff going on that is there to awaken you. Not everybody has a twin flame, but still their soul chose to go through an awakening, and in their blueprint in their life they chose to meet a catalyst. And then that catalyst is, of course, there to have this awakening phase. However, a catalyst, when the job is done, then they often leave your life, or even if they stay in your life, then it will form into another kind of relationship. There won't be that sexual attraction anymore, or that romantic feeling. It will more turn into a friendship feeling, but most likely they actually will leave your life after you have gone through your awakening process and your awakening experience. So that is something, another thing, how you can tell that it is your twin flame. That connection won't end. It just won't end. And by that I mean you will keep on loving them. Like even my catalyst twin flame. Yeah, I do have a catalyst twin, a split twin that I had before I met my monadic twin flame, and that man was very important for my personal development. It was a 9-year-old journey in which I learned all of the self-love progress. I learned, the running and chasing dynamic, and all of that was healed, or at least most of it, and I got into this state of being at peace with the situation, and I had this deep knowing that my true love will come to me. When I thought that he was my twin flame, and there were all of the signs, of course. When you have a catalyst twin flame or just a catalyst, you will have signs, maybe for some of you it's angel numbers, whatever the signs may be, but you will get signs. And now I kind of lost my train of thought. Yeah, it wasn't very authentic connection. That's why I would never use the term false twin, because it was a real authentic connection. That man also recognized that there was some kind of telepathy. He didn't call it like that, but he said something similar to that, and he said to me, for example, feel like you're the best person that knows me, or the person that knows me better than anyone else. Sometimes I feel like you know me better than I know myself, or sometimes I feel that you know me better than my own mom does. So he recognized this deep, deep, deep bond that was going on between the two of us. So that is because it was a real authentic connection. It was, I don't know what a false twin is. I really believe a false twin is somebody labeling a person falsely a twin flame. But with that guy, he is no longer in my life. He is not in my life since 2015. That was the last time we spoke, and it was very painful for me. And when I got into this really healed state, and again, we're not talking about like 100%, but probably like 90-something%, I attracted my monadic twin flame. Why? Because my soul chose that prior to coming down on earth. It was in my soul's blueprint. That is why I always say you cannot just attract a twin flame when it's not in your blueprint. You can attract something like a mirror twin, somebody who's very similar. And of course, we always attract people who are either complementary or very similar in our energy. And if we are in a low vibration, then that is something that we attract as well, and you could call that something toxic going on. But if we are in a high energy, then we attract, of course, something like a counterpart, and that person will mirror us in some way. So there is often a lot going on that is very similar. But I was talking about catalyst and about my catalyst twin, and what I was going to say is, even though I don't have romantic feelings for him anymore, and even though I haven't spoken to him in years, there's still this special place in my heart. There's no regret at all. There's nothing negative. I'm not mad. There's only good feelings, because he was a very good guy, and that can happen when you've had a catalyst. It could have been someone who was more on the toxic side when you were more on the very unawakened side, still had a lot of shadow work to do, and then that person came to trigger all of that in order to propel you in your journey. Maybe you were a bit more awakened already, or healed, had gone through some stuff, and then you attracted a catalyst to help you to even go on in your journey, in your healing journey. but that would be more an individual journey. A twin flame journey is either a split twin or a monadic twin. It's two people going on this journey. When you have a split twin as a catalyst in order to draw in your monadic twin flame, because you will be prepared for your monadic twin flame. Even for your split twin, you will have been prepared through some prior very strong high level soul connections. You will have been prepared. For me, it was the soul twin. That was the biggest preparation for the split twin, because due to him, he was like a first catalyst for my awakening process. I met that guy when I was 19, and I already had been connected to the divine ever since I was a child. I already had been into astrology, or my early teen years into Wicca stuff, that kind of stuff you could get your hands on back then, basically. Like whatever was spiritual or supernatural, I've always, ever since I was a very small child, always have been connected. But he changed my life so much. I used to be very cynic, and I learned to open up. I never thought in something like love at first sight, and then I met that guy, and honestly I would have married him the next day. I mean, now I'm glad that we didn't, because that was never meant to be. But he entirely changed me, and I'm still very grateful for that connection. So even if you have a split twin, you will have been prepared beforehand. If it's not a soul twin, some kind of a connection will have forced you to heal, to awaken in some kind, because awakening is also not something you do once. It is going on in different steps, and those people will have been, well, either depending on your energy, it might have been something toxic. For me, those guys, the three major guys, like the soul twin, the split twin, and the monadic twin, all very kind guys. There was nothing toxic going on here, except for I had wounds of abandonment that I, of course, they mirrored back to me by not being emotionally available. So that is what happened there. But anyway, it was important for me to talk about catalysts, because I've read some stuff in Facebook groups that is simply not true. People claiming, oh yeah, I've met a twin flame. He was my catalyst. I have finished that twin flame journey, and now I no longer have feelings for him, or I never wanted to be romantically connected with him. If you have a split twin or a monadic twin, then there is the sense of romantic connection and that desire to do so. But don't get the word desire wrong. I don't mean desire as in a kind of need, like I need you to complete me, or if you're not in my life, I can never be happy again. That is not healthy, okay? You can only come together with any divine counterpart once you are happy within yourself. I always say they come as a cherry on top. They don't come to be your, like, the center of your universe. You need to be the center of your universe, and then you will have somebody to add on to that. Okay, a divine counterpart does never come to make you happy. They come when you already are happy, and then they come to expand that happiness. So when I talk about desire, a desire is not the same thing as a need. You may want to live with your twin flame, and some people say, oh no, you don't want it anymore. They come as soon as you don't care anymore. That is not true, because you cannot not care. It's just not painful anymore. And for me, that was the biggest difference between the split twin and the monadic twin flame. With the split twin flame, I healed that kind of pain. And with the monadic twin flame, of course, there's this kind of like longing, that soul pull, but it's not connected to pain, because you feel this connection. You know you are connected even if the person is not there right now. So it's a desire, but people get it wrong. A desire does not mean to have to want something you don't have. I've got food in my fridge and still can have a desire to eat that food in my fridge right now. I can have a desire for my twin flame without thinking that I cannot be happy without him. I know he would enhance my happiness. A desire does not need to come out of lack. It can. I mean, if you have no food in your fridge, and you can desire food, right? But right now, if I desire for a kombucha, I do have some homemade kombucha in my fridge, and I can just take it because it's right there. So again, a desire does not imply that you think you cannot have it. That's the difference between a desire and a need. You won't need your counterpart to be happy because you already are happy. But anyway, some people, again, they say, yeah, I met this catalyst, that person was my twin flame, and I've done the journey, I finished the journey, and now I'm with somebody else, I'm with my soulmate, and that twin flame journey, he was just a catalyst. That was not a twin flame then, okay? That may have been a very close soul connection. That definitely was a catalyst if he helped you awaken, but not a twin flame. And why do I say that? Not because I want to discredit anyone, but the problem is, and that is the problem I had and why I am adding this information, is that those people who think they have been through a twin flame journey and have not been through a twin flame journey, not an authentic twin flame journey, still think that they can coach people who may be on authentic twin flame journeys. Some of them may not be, because again, there's unfortunately so much stigmatization and putting people on pedestals that do not belong on pedestals and claiming them twin flames. That's a huge thing going on, unfortunately. But some people may be on an authentic twin flame journey and they look for some kind of guidance because maybe that is entirely new to them. Maybe they just met somebody and had never felt anything like this before, and they felt this intense connection, and since they have never felt it before, they are a bit overwhelmed, which is absolutely okay, absolutely normal and natural. And if they then go to a person for coaching who has not been on a twin flame journey but on a catalyst journey, which is an important and amazing journey, it's just a different journey, there I see problems. It's like, for example, Portugal and Spain are neighboring countries. The language is kind of similar, and there's one person who has been to Portugal and then is trying to explain you what Spain feels like, where to go to in Spain, and is trying to teach you Spanish, but they speak Portuguese, and it's not the same language. And there may be similarities between Portugal and Spain, but it's not the same country, or even bigger. There's a lot of similarities between French and Spanish, not the pronunciation. I don't speak any French, but I know a little Spanish, and when I read French, again, I don't know the pronunciation at all, but some words I pick up because there is similarities. But still, I have been to France on short trips. I live in Germany, so it's a neighboring country. It's not too far from me. But I am not an expert in France. I'm not an expert in Spanish either. I'm an expert in Germany, which is the neighboring country of France. So I can tell you about Germany. I'm not an expert in France. Okay. And that is, I cannot coach anybody. When you go to France, you need to go there, and French people are like this. I've only been there a couple of times for like 2 or 3 days. Yeah, I know some stereotypes, of course, but I'm not an expert on France. I'm the expert on Germany because this is where I grew up. I'm maybe a little expert on America because I used to live there for a while. So I know something at least about the state of New York where you lived. But when you go look for an expert, go find the right expert. And again, somebody who is telling you, yeah, I've had this twin flame, I finished the journey, we're not in union because I don't care anymore about union. That was not an authentic twin flame connection. So please be aware. That might be the perfect coach for you if you are not on a twin flame journey, but a catalyst journey. or that person may teach you amazing stuff about doing your shadow work. That's the right person for that as well, because a catalyst will teach you to go through that stuff, but it's not a twin flame journey. And again, that is important because it can cause so much confusion, and that is the reason why I did this video, and also this little add-on that I will probably cut somewhere in between, because it can be confusing. It can be confusing. When I first met my Monadic Twin Flame, I had been on this split twin journey, and all of a sudden I felt this even stronger connection to another person that I did not understand. And my job was already working, like coaching twin flames, so shame on me. But I was confused. Because I didn't know the difference between split twin flames and monadic twin flames, or as I said in German, Dualseelen, duality souls, and twin flames. It's a different energy. And I was so confused, and for a moment I thought that I had failed my my twin flame journey, and I felt like the universe took this connection, because all of a sudden I stopped feeling that connection. I didn't feel him anymore, and I was actually grieving that connection, even though there was already somebody else that just confused me. Because monadic twin flames, there's so many differences going on, the age gap, living on other continents, class differences, like all that kind of stuff going on, and you in the beginning may not see your ego. Your soul knows from the very beginning. I had this sudden Kundalini awakening and stuff. Your soul knows from the very beginning, and I felt connected to that person like I had never felt before, and I did not understand it, and my ego was trying to fight it, and there was grieving going on with the other person for a while, because my ego didn't understand, and I was fighting it. So I get that it is confusing, and I want to end that kind of confusion, because first of all, I have been on that journey myself. You could say since I was 19 years old, and I'm 39 now. And when I was 19, I met that soul twin, who was the first awakening process that helped me heal a lot. He was the motivation for me to start meditating. So I started doing that in my very early 20s. So it's been almost 20 years now that I am spiritually working, connecting to spirit, channeling. He was the reason. I think since it was part of my soul contract, that would have happened anyway. But he triggered that it worked faster. A catalyst is you gaining momentum, you're gaining speed, and there is something happening in you. And then I could only attract the split twin flame once I really let go of that first one. And by letting go, I don't mean that journey was going on all the time. I kind of was over it, but still sometimes thought of that person, and he was important for me to heal to a certain extent that only allowed me to draw in the split twin flame, because you can only attract a very, very high level soul connection if you already have done some kind of healing. Otherwise you won't be able to contain this kind of energy, because it is very triggering, and you need to have started your healing journey before you attract somebody who's like this close to you. And as you saw in the video in the beginning, the split twin flame, you were one soul for a while before you split, so of course you're very connected to that person. You're very, very, very connected. And if you're a monadic twin flame and you don't have a split twin flame, you will get somebody who is in the energy of a split twin flame to you, because that person will again help you awaken, and there's then more shadow work going on. And so these connections, they're very precious. Also the catalyst connections, they were never meant to be, they were just catalysts, and you felt them, it was very intense for a while, and then you stop feeling them. It's still a very, very, very precious divine divine orchestrated connection. So again, I'm not trying to discredit anyone who has been through this amazing journey. It has not been my journey, kind of. Well, maybe, yeah, with the soul twin. But it doesn't have to be a soul twin. I'm just labeling it because, not for the label. I think, again, labels may be important to understand what is going on. Labels are not important because it makes it more special than another thing. It's, I mean, you call a banana. So when you talk about a banana, everybody knows what a banana is. And that by itself doesn't make a banana better than a peach. And maybe if you're allergic to one, yeah, but we're talking about in general. A peach is a peach, and a peach is amazing, or a strawberry, or whatever it is, you know. Labeling is just helpful to make people understand that is exactly the energy I'm talking about. But it doesn't mean, oh, banana is better than... I mean, a banana could never be better than a strawberry, in my personal opinion. But then there are other people who say, no, banana is the best thing in the world. So that's just personal preference. But by itself, a banana is not better than a peach or any other fruit. They just all are, and some people prefer this, others prefer that. In soul connections, it's not so much what we prefer when we are down here. It was what did our soul prefer prior to coming here. So it is not, one is not better than the other. And that's why I took the images, you know, a zebra is not better or worse than, I don't know, an elephant, or the giraffe image, or the water buffalo, or whatever it is. Everything is amazing. Everything is what you planned to experience. But again, going back to the metaphor, somebody who never ate a banana cannot tell. They may have read about what a banana may taste like, but they cannot really tell you about bananas. It's just not possible. So please use your discernment. And again, if somebody tells you, yeah, I met this person, had this twin flame journey, I finished the twin flame journey, and then that person was out of my life and there's no connection anymore, not possible. You saw the images where they yeah, it's let's go down. Here we have the animals. It's not possible to not be connected anymore, because with a split twin flame, and you do share the oversoul. And I'm going to find this again. Sorry, there was a lot, right? Here, you do share an oversoul. You cannot not share an oversoul anymore. And you will always be somewhat connected with this person. And you will stay connected with this person unless you do have a monadic twin flame. And those are actually very, very rare. They're very rare. It's just a blueprint, and they are rare. Those are way more common. Split twin flames are way more, and even those are not as common, of course, as soulmates. But the only reason when you would stop feeling your twin flame would be if that was just a catalyst to prepare you for the monadic twin flame. Okay, then you will stop feeling the connection. Otherwise, you will be connected. But don't see this like, oh no, I will be connected to that person for the rest of my life, because you can make it work. If you want to be with that person, then only because there is a timeline where it is possible for you to live with that person. That is very important for you. Don't let anybody tell you it's not possible to be with your divine counterpart. Don't let anybody tell you that. People who tell you that, they're coming from their own unhealed trauma and limiting beliefs, projecting that onto you. And it's not true. Because if you have a desire, and again, desire is not the same thing as a need, then only because this timeline does exist, and it's just your job to do your shadow work and work on your limiting beliefs in order to get to that timeline. So if you are right now in a painful situation and you're like, oh, I just want to get rid of that person, when it's in authentic, when it's any other soul connection, it's not split tree or monadic, you can get rid of it, but only by stop focusing on it, because wherever your focus goes, that is what the universe will enhance. And that is the same thing here. If you have any negative feelings towards your split twin, that is what the universe will give you more of. So start seeing them in a good light. Start seeing them as somebody who already is healed. Do your healing work, and you will get to the timeline where you can have your happy ever after with your well, unless you're into that. But don't let anyone ever tell you you cannot be with your split twin flame. That is just somebody who will never be with their split twin flame, if they even have one. If it's an authentic connection, you never know, right? They won't be, because as long as they have the limiting belief that it's impossible or so hard and they can't be, the universe will confirm that, and they will stay in that timeline where they won't get to their happy end. But don't listen to them. You can get to your happy end once you do your shadow work and you work on your limiting beliefs and you do your manifestation work. And please check out my other videos. I'm planning a lot on that. Please check out Never Goddard. You can type in like phrases, everyone is you pushed out, circumstances don't matter, etc. And claim your union. As soon as you claim it, and for me, what happened, as soon as I let go, and letting go is another thing. Letting go does not mean giving up. That is giving up. Letting go is giving this connection to the divine, trusting it will come. And once I had been in that energy, for me, this was what was meant to be. So as soon as I was in this energy, I draw in my personal, real divine counterpart. Not saying this was not a real connection. It was a very, very real, loving connection that was sent to me to, as I said, heal abandonment issues, running, chasing, to prepare me for that. So I wouldn't miss it for the world. And I still have that man in my heart, even if it's not romantic anymore, even if I would never see him ever again. That was very special to me, very special connection. So anyway, sorry, that is one of the astrology videos I did. I was a bit confused because I didn't see that. That is all I wanted to say. I know it has been a lot again, but it's just so important for me to end all of the confusion, because there's so much different stuff going on. And connect to the divine, meditate. You will find your inner truth. And also when you listen to this video, you will know your inner truth. You will know it. And inner truth is something that doesn't necessarily have to feel good, because sometimes in truth can be something we don't want to hear. And if we hear something we don't want to hear and it does something to us, then it implies that it is true. We just don't want to hear it. If during this video you have the feeling of, oh, this feels right, trust it. Trust it. If somebody tells you, oh, you won't get together with your twin flame, and that just feels wrong, don't trust it, because again, you can do it. You can do it. If you want a coach, you don't have to contact me. I mean, you can contact me. I'm just asking you, try to find someone that you think is on the authentic journey. As I said before, don't pick somebody who's been to Portugal and who's trying to tell you about Spain. Okay? That is very important. And I wish you all the best. Well, actually, this is not bye-bye. The video is probably going on for you unless I do this at the very end. But enjoy the rest of the video. And yeah, let's tap a bit into the Divine Counterpart astrology, because there's so much to talk about. And Divine Counterpart astrology, it does definitely show if a couple are twin flames or not. It is not my goal to discredit any type of connection. They are all special. I just want to help you understand. So if you don't really want to know, then don't worry about it, okay? I was frustrated because most of the information I found was extremely shallow, like I'm an Aries and he's a Libra, those are opposite signs, so we must be twin flames. Since there are 12 signs, about 1/12 or 8.3% of the world population are your opposite signs, and so that approach is just extremely shallow and silly. So you cannot determine your person is your twin flame by just because they have the same sun sign or opposite sun sign or stuff like that. This will be just a brief summary of the information I have found, since I could fill an entire book with it. And if you see, this is actually labeled the shorter version. I have shortened it, but I am going to probably give more information during this in my YouTube channel. Just subscribe. However, this is just the basics, okay? When analyzing a couple's horoscope for soul connections markers, I first look at their own birth charts and individually to see if I find synchronicities, then their synastry, and after that the composite chart. So let's just start with the symbol of the basic elements. We do have fire and water and air and earth, and you can already tell that those go together and those go together, right? Those are the masculine and the feminine, but I'm going to talk about that. Based on these symbols, it is evident that fire and water are counterparts, as well as, sorry, it should be air. I don't know why I wrote wind. Air and earth. Fire and air are masculine, and water and earth are feminine. You see the ones that are going up, like a phallic symbol, are masculine, and the triangle, like the female crotch, would be feminine. They either share the line going through this or not. Symbols with lines show the more rational signs, without the more emotional signs, these ones. So we have emotional fire and water, and the rational are air and earth. Soulmates, even close ones, can be any sign. Just check for positive and negative aspects in synastry, like trines and conjunctions. Especially good as sun, moon trines or conjunctions in synastry. Also in synastry, having aspects like one person's sun or moon and the other person's first, second, seventh or eighth house is very good from romantic partners. Doesn't have to be, but those are very, very good signs for romantic partners. However, be careful with the 8th house. This is the Scorpio house that rules the strongest possible emotions, good or bad. If you have many harmonious aspects, then good. If not, it can indicate a karmic relationship, especially if that sun or moon in the other person's 8th house is connected to another planet. If it's negatively connected, I should say. If you, for example, have a square to the moon of the other person in your 8th house, that could be quite traumatic. A trine would be amazing. Or any positive connection is good. Negative connections to a planet in the 8th house, not so good. The more context your planets have, the stronger the connection is. So that is what you should look first. Do you have a lot of connections? Also check for the north and south nodes. Those can also indicate a soul connection, especially if there is a connection, a positive connection between one's north or south nodes and another person's personal planets. Don't neglect asteroids. Positive Chiron connections can also indicate soul connections. And positive, again, we're talking about close conjunctions and trines. Maybe even sextiles, but not so much squares and oppositions. Juno shows the nature of your divine counterpart. It is vital. It is good if one person has Juno in the same sign as the other person's sun or moon. So, for example, I'm a Virgo sun, and my twin flame has Juno in Virgo. So that is a very good connection. Eros and Psyche in the same sign can be one of the indicators for twin flames. A harmonious connection between Eros and Psyche shows great potential, like same element. So if you have, for example, my twin flame and I have, it's my Eros and his Psyche and Scorpio. So we do have them in the same sign. Positive would also be, like I have it in Scorpio. If I would meet somebody who has them either in another water sign, so it would Pisces or Cancer. So if it's the same element, that would be good as well, because then it shows that they get along very well. Check out the vertex. The vertex is something like the I'm sorry, I'm not going into detail here because it would be too long. The vertex is something like the MC or the IC or the AC. You know, it's like a line going through, and it's connected to fate. And if you want to have a connection between one person's vertex and the other person's sun, moon, Venus, Juno, like my twin flame and me, Eros or Psyche when dealing with a divine counterpart, because sun, moon, Venus are of course strong elements when it comes to love. Juno is the asteroid of soulmates. It shows what your soul connection is. Soulmates, twin flames. Okay, when I say soulmates, soul connections, I should say, because Juno tells you who's your divine counterpart. And Eros and Psyche are also very important when we talk about soul connections. So if you have vertex that is connected to fate, connected to the other person's, you know, like I said, one of these elements, then it shows that there is a fated connection. Also check out how the synastry charts translate to the composite chart. Again, I can't talk about this in detail here, but please follow me because I am going to analyze celebrity horoscopes, for example, or maybe even between me and my best friend, you know, like soul connection horoscopes, and then you can see it while I am doing it. So please subscribe, like, hit the bell icon, then you will be notified. Saturn is often viewed as the planet of karma, but it is a close soul connection. It is your friend. It's because Saturn is also the planet of commitment. If you have a lot of connections but no positive connections between one person's Saturn and another person's Sun, Moon or Venus, that connection may not be easy to stabilize or to get from the 5D to the 3D. Saturn squares can indicate a karmic connection. Very positive are positive connections between like conjunctions and trines between one person's personal sign and the other person's Saturn. Also, no connections between one person's Saturn and the other person's personal planet show that it might be harder to ground this connection. Or not ground, but not so much ground, but to have it lasting, because again, Saturn is the planet of long-lasting commitments. Remember, you can still manifest a serious commitment if you do the work. However, manifestation cannot turn any soul connection into a twin flame. You either are a twin flame or you're not. Try to see it this way. If you are adopted and you love your adoptive mother, she's still not your mother by blood. Your best friend might be like a sibling, but is not truly a sibling by blood. Some things like family are determined before birth. If you have a twin flame or not was determined before birth, but you can still have and attract a divine counterpart. Pluto or the 8th house connections can also indicate a strong soul connection. However, be careful. Again, Pluto is the planet of light and dark, and there's no in between. It can either go really well or really bad. Positive, sorry for the typo, positive Pluto or 8th house connections can indicate very deep and passionate love, the once in a lifetime story. Negative Pluto or 8th house connections can be extremely toxic. Either love of your life or pure hatred. It can be those volatile connections that harm one another but still have a hard time letting go. Pluto or 8th house connections can be love and or lust at the first sight. There is an immense attraction. Make sure that these planetary connections are harmonious ones. I'm talking about Pluto and Saturn here. Also make sure that you have other harmonious connections, especially when dealing with Pluto. If there is a Pluto connection, you want to have a ton of positive connections in your chart. Twin flames like Monadic, definitely Monadic, and also split twin most likely have strong platonic connections, but positive ones. They will also have other very harmonious connections in the synastry. Pluto 8th house connections trigger the soul recognition, that deep instant bond. For example, my twin flame's moon is in my 8th house, but my sun is trining it, which is extremely positive. Also, my moon is in his 7th house, the house of partnership and romance, another extremely harmonious placement, especially since my moon is trined by his sun, so we have two sun-moon trines. So there's mirroring going on in monadic twin flame connections as well, of course. So the 8th house, again, it's the biggest possible emotion, either positive or negative, but the 7th house is very positive, so this shows already in which direction it goes, especially if there's trines going on. Also, my twin flames, Pluto is conjuncting my sun exactly, there's no orb, but his moon is also trining my sun, and again, a lot of mirror going on, but we also both have a moon Pluto trine in our birth charts, which again is similar energy. Moon Pluto trines similar energy. His Saturn is also conjuncting my moon and opposing my Venus. And this opposition is like one of the super clue elements. And my Saturn is trining his sun. Okay, so his Saturn is conjuncting my moon, which is very good for long-lasting commitment, and also opposing the Venus is very, very good for long-term commitment. Any connection between Venus and Saturn, except for squares. Squares would be more positive. Actually, that would also mean a long-lasting connection, just not so much a positive. That would be more karmic. True twin flame synastry will have a mixture of passionate platonic connections, but also very harmonious ones to even it out. Pluto is the planet of healing and transforming. So in Tarot, it is connected to the Death card, which is healing and transforming. Which healing and transforming is a vital part of twin flame connections. Again, split twin and monadic twin flames. It is the planet of ascending. It is connected to Scorpio. And the ascendant Scorpio turns into the eagle and then the phoenix. Also, please check each other's descendant. That is the opposite of the ascendant. The descendant is the cusp of the 7th house. That is why that is connected to relationships of all kinds. You know, like could be business relationships as well. Often we attract people into our lives that have strong energy of our descendant. For example, my twin flame is a a Leo rising, meaning Aquarius descendant, and I'm Aqua moon, so I do have strong Aquarius in my chart. Oh, I already wrote it down. I didn't read that. So yeah, dimension information is valid for all soul connections. Everything I said is valid for all soul connections. Souls, twins, split twins, and monadic twin flames just have even more links between the horoscopes. The stronger the connection is, the more links and similarities there will be. I mentioned mirrored souls above, but honestly, those will show some of the above mentioned attributes. However, mirror souls are more flexible, since they mirror their own expectations and progress back. Therefore, it would be hard to pin them down astrologically, because again, you like, for example, you can change your inner beliefs and stuff, and then you would attract somebody that mirrors that exactly back to you. It's not fixed. If in one phase of your life your sun sign is very prominent, your mirror soul will reflect that back to you. If later you tap more into another energy like your moon sign, it will mirror more of that back to you, or you will attract another mirror soul that mirrors your current energy. Again, soulmates, even close ones, can be any sign. You will see them when you check out synastry, and there are many connections between your personal planets: Saturn, Ordinals, Chiron, and for Romans important asteroids. Many will have traits like one person's sun, moon, or rising is the same as the other person's sun, moon, or rising sign. Now we're talking about soul twins. Soul twins often share a similar frequency. Remember? Yeah, you know, they were like my example, old blue, for example. For that reason, they usually have the same elements strong in their birth chart. Soul twins often have a lot of trines, and which is the most harmonious aspect in astrology in a synastry chart. Also, their sun and moon signs are often from the same elements. This means if your sun, moon, or rising sign from one element, the soul twin is often one of the other two signs from the same element. And here I wrote them down. So fire would be Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Earth would be Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius would be air. And then water is Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. So if you have one strong of these, then your soul twin would most likely, if you have strong Gemini, would most likely be Libra, Aquarius strong in that chart. But it doesn't have to be the sun sign. It could also be one person having a sun sign in Aries, for example, and the other person has their moon or rising in Leo or Sagittarius. If they're from a trine, if they form a trine, that would be even stronger. Often they have sun sign or moon trines, or sun moon, sun ascendant, or moon ascendant trines. Again, there's a lot of trines going on because they're so harmonious. Then split twins often have something in common and something opposite. For example, my split twin and I are both Virgos, but I'm a Gemini rising, which means Sagittarius DC, and he is a Sagittarius rising, so a Gemini DC. That means that even though we are both Virgo suns, our suns are in opposite houses. Mine is in the 5th house, and his is in the 11th house. So we do have the same energy, Virgo, but still opposite because of opposite houses. Of course, it could be opposite signs as well. My opposite sign as a Virgo would be Pisces. So in split twin, you often see opposites, you know, like Aries, Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, Gemini, Sagittarius, Cancer, Capricorn, Leo, Aquarius, and Virgo, Pisces. Here you can see the opposing signs. Opposing signs are either both feminine or masculine energy. Many opposing elements in horoscope can be a sign of split twin flames. So all odd houses, like this is the 1st house, 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and so on, are masculine, and the even houses, or you see the numbers here, the even houses are always feminine houses, and you see opposite signs are always either odd, masculine, or even feminine. But anyway, if you have many opposing elements, it can be a sign of split twin. Odd houses are masculine houses and even houses are feminine. We just talked about that. Triangles pointing upwards are the masculine. We just said that. And those pointing downward are feminine. So you see here, opposing house, red is always yellow. Yellow is always red. See, we always have red and yellow. And we always have blue and green. Here we have red and yellow, masculine, and blue and green, feminine. Like the yin-yang symbol that holds both feminine and masculine in each part, some split twins are more masculine in nature and others are more feminine. But since they always hold both energy, they still split up in masculine and feminine. You see how I said earlier that often they are very masculine and one is very feminine, but still, you see, this is not the only split, they were split before. So this would be the more masculine side, and this, like the monad, and this would be the more feminine. However, they still both have both and then split, but still this is would be the more feminine monad. Even if they are split in masculine and feminine, the monad would be feminine, this monad would be masculine. Okay, so this would be the fire, and if this would be feminine, then this would be the even houses, this would be the odd houses. Example, Virgo and Pisces are opposing signs, both are feminine signs. Virgo is still rational, ruled by Mercury, and Pisces is emotional, ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. Virgo is an earth sign and belongs to the more rational signs. Pisces is a water sign and belongs to the more emotional signs. So again, both are feminine signs. However, one is still more rational and one is more emotional. Of course, it doesn't have to be an opposition between the sun signs or moon signs. However, opposites and sameness show up prominently. There may be many oppositions and conjunctions, especially sun, moon, rising signs. All planets are in opposite houses in their birth chart. They don't have to translate to oppositions in synastry. Let's say, as I said earlier, I have my sun is in the 5th and my split twins in the 11th. Even if we would not both be Virgos, then still we would be opposing houses, or some would be in opposing houses. So it could be one person's Venus in the 3rd house and the other person has it in the 9th. There would be only one opposition in synastry if both had the same rising sign. You see, if they had the same rising sign, let's go back. If this would be like both were Aries and then one had it in here and the other one in there, then it would be an opposition. But if not both would be rising sign, then there would not be an opposition in. It's hard to understand. I'm sorry. It's not an opposition in synastry. Since houses are important in Divine Counterpart astrology, it really works best if you both have exact birth dates are known in order to know both person's houses and rising signs. So houses are important and unfortunately often neglected. That is why many astrologers who talk about twin flame astrology, they're so shallow, just talking about signs, but houses are important too. Yeah, I feel that houses have been neglected in any information that I found in Soulmate astrology. In my split twin connection, there were several planets in opposite houses. In my monadic twin flame connection, sun, moon, and rising are all connected also through houses. And this is just, you see this is my chart. And this is just an example, it's just my chart. I'm not showing my twin flames. I am a Gemini rising. My twin flame has his sun in Gemini, and it's in the 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of Aquarius. I do have my moon in Aquarius in the 10th house, which is the house of Capricorn. He has his moon in Capricorn, but in the 6th house, which is the house of Virgo, I have my sun in Virgo, but in the 5th house, which is the house of Leo, and he's a Leo rising. So you see, they're all connected by signs and houses with my monadic twin flame and me. As established, there will be numerous connections and mirroring going on in a twin flame connection. Monadic twin flames are yin-yang, and this is obviously shown in the horoscope as well. So we are at monadic twin flame astrology now. So you want to look out for yin-yang energy. Every planet, except for Sun and Moon, has a yin and a yang side. The elemental counterparts are fire and water, air and earth. You can see it clearly in these signs already. We have one masculine and one feminine. And here we have one masculine, one feminine, and they either have the line or they don't. They are either already more emotional because they share the core frequency, or they're more rational because they share the core frequency of being more rational. Fire and water are the emotional signs, air and earth are the rational signs, so they are complementary, they get each other. For example, Virgo. Virgo is a rational sign that is ruled by Mercury. The opposing sign would be Pisces. Usually Virgos and Pisces don't really get each other since they're polar opposites. They would need other factors in their horoscopes that they have in common, like split twins do. Split twins can have polar opposites, but they need something that is same as well. Remember again the yin-yang symbol, the white has a part of the black in it as well. Virgo is the yin, the feminine aspect of Mercury. Gemini is the yang, the masculine aspect of Mercury. They think similar but have different and complementary approaches. So the yin-yang in horoscope, we do have the moon would be Cancer and the sun Leo. So the yin sign, the feminine would be Cancer, the yang sign Leo. Mercury signs, yin-yang, is Virgo and Gemini. The Venus signs are Taurus and Libra. The Mars signs are Scorpio and Aries. Jupiter are Pisces and Sagittarius. And Saturn are Capricorn and Aquarius. So these are the yin-yang energies. So you will find, for example, one person has the sun in, like my twin Virgo and Gemini, and the moon, like my twin and I, would be in Capricorn, in Saturn signs, like he's a Capricorn moon, I'm an Aquarius moon. And you will find a lot of that. Like, for example, also my Mercury, we have Mercury both in Venus signs, like he's a Mercury Taurus and I'm a Mercury Libra. You will find many yin-yang aspects in monadic twin flame horoscopes. Simply having yin-yang with 1 or 2 planets in the horoscopes will not be enough. About 1/12 of the world population will have the sign of your energetic counterpart. Twin flames will have several, very important. Of course, the sun and the moon signs are especially important, followed by personal signs, Mercury, Venus, Mars. Okay, so having complementary Jupiter signs is not as important as, of course, sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus are less significant since they are very slow-moving planets. However, you will probably find additional yin-yang energy with those or connections via houses. Yeah, for example, my twin flame and also have Jupiter. I have Jupiter in Scorpio, which is a Mars sign, and he has Jupiter in Aries, the complementary Mars sign. Also look at houses. I gave the example of my twin flames and my sun, moon, and rising sign all being connected through houses. Other examples of having a planet in similar energy yet slightly different is if one twin has a planet in a specific sign and the other in the according house. For example, one twin has several planets in Virgo and the other twin has the same planets in the 6th house, which is the house of Virgo. You will most likely find several planets being connected through signs and houses that way, meaning they are loaded with the same energy, either by being in the sign or being in the according house. In the beginning of the astrology part, I was talking about strong house placement for the sun and the moon, the 1st, the 2nd, the 7th, and the 8th, as well as strong, harmonious Pluto connections. Also, harmonious Saturn connections are important. Everything I wrote about soulmates and astrology will apply to any kind of soulmates, but it is especially strong in twin flame connections. Since twin flame connections are supposed to bring ascension and healing, not only Pluto but also Chiron connections, especially conjunctions and trines, will play a factor. Since Chiron is an asteroid, they all must be very tight, maximal 2 degrees. Check for connections between one twin's Chiron and the other person's Sun, Moon, and Venus, because those are closest ones when it comes to love, like the most important planets here. Sun, Moon, Venus. Sorry. Paradoxically, you might find some squares in monadic twin flame astrology, especially when it comes to Venus. Squares can be lessons that need to be overcome, but they can be overcome. Remember, your monadic twin flame will most likely differ from your usual type when it comes to circumstances like age gaps, cultural or class differences, etc. So even if you love them at first sight right away, there is something that needs to be overcome when it comes to this love, and that is why there may be like Venus squares. Sorry, my cat is sneezing. What I would not like to see, however, are squares between the moon, the north node, Chiron, and one of the personal planets of the other person. The moon is our core, the strongest aspect in one's horoscope. It shows the deepest needs and vulnerability. A moon square can show strong friction, and a moon person may never really feel safe with the other person. There would have to be several extremely harmonious placements to even out a moon square, but of course it is possible. However, if your entire synastry is full of squares without plenty of positive aspects, it is most likely not your monadic twin flame, since those connections are very harmonious, and even if there are many things to overcome. Those are most likely societal or different love languages due to upbringing, but the other language can be learned. Again, hence the Venus squares, for example. The moon nodes are important since they show karma and dharma. Are they connected to the other twin sun, moon, rising sign of Venus, or are they in the same sign, hence going into the same direction? For example, my twin and I both have our north node in Cancer, but different houses, still going from Capricorn to Cancer in the same direction. Also check for the north nodes houses. Maybe one twin has a north node in Aries and the other in the 1st house. This means both north nodes would be connected to Aries energy. Or both have the north node going to the same house, even if they're different signs. The signs are not always that important because it takes approximately 1.5 years for the north nodes to go through one sign. So check also if you do have connections between the nodes and personal planets. Very important. Yeah, just those are the houses. The first is the Aries. You can, if you need to look at that, take a screenshot here. I just skip this. There will be mirroring in twin flame astrology, most definitely. For example, my twin flame and I both have a moon Pluto trine. His moon is in Capricorn and mine in Aquarius, so we do have the yin yang. Both have Saturn signs, and they're both loaded with harmonious Pluto energy while being in the complementary Saturn sign. So that is mirroring going on. We also have 2 sun-moon trines, his sun trining my moon and vice versa. Sun-moon trines are extremely harmonious and good for any relationship, any like friendships, family, whatever. Business too. As stated before, monadic twin flame connections are always extremely harmonious, and this will show somehow in astrology. I was talking about asteroids in the general part of soulmate astrology. This is especially goes for twin flames. Check your Juno signs. Juno is showing the energy of your divine counterpart. Check if you have one twin's Eros and the other twin Psyche in one sign. Because Eros and Psyche are twin flames. They belong together. So you want one person's twin, the Eros, the other person's psyche, being in a very harmonious connection somehow. Even if it's not the same sign, like in a trine or something like that. Careful. Also, Neptune is the planet of illusion as well as transcendence. So many people say, yeah, you have Neptune connections. You most likely have some Neptune or 12th house connections, but that can be a bit of a pitfall because, again, Neptune is also the planet of illusion. So this could be making somebody a twin flame in your mind and they're not. That is a trap that could happen. Especially if you have Neptune connections, please check for Saturn connections as well. Because if you have no Saturn contacts between one person's Sun, Moon, or Venus, because Saturn is grounding connections to the 3D, you know, Neptune is like all 5D stuff or illusion, and you want it grounded, you want to live it, right? So if you don't have any Saturn contacts, then it might not be a real connection. It might be all illusionary. So please check for harmonious Saturn contacts. And then a couple of other signs that indicate a monadic twin flame connection can be similar names. Doesn't have to be, but for example, my twin flame and I's first names are they're from the same, have the same meaning. Funny enough, my split twin flame and I as well, but my second name was connected to his first name. That would be an example, like Michael and Michaela, for example, or Paul and Paula, something like that. Then they have similar face features, and body morphing can go on. Remember, we are still talking about monadic twin flames. At least one twin has a soul urge number 9. Soul urge number is in that case more important than the life path number, because the life path number is more connected to the earthly development, whereas the soul urge is more talking about the soul connection, like soul. Yeah, it's called soul urge, right? So number 9 is the last number when it comes to single digits and is connected to the hermit in tarot. It's connected to the wise one, the elder one, the spiritually awakened energy. Then perfect match in Chinese astrology. Check your Chinese astrology sign, for example. The same personality type. For example, my twin flame and I are both INFPs, like the mediator type. As I said, your twin flame, your monadic twin flame will be very, very, very similar to you. So those are some signs that could, not all of them, but you will, repeating numbers in numerology, I skipped that one. Yeah, I analyzed everything, like not just like birth dates, heart's desire number, soul urge number, life path number, but also like how many weeks are we apart, our birthdays apart, or the date we met, and like everything. And it also came back to us with the same numbers, like 1, 3, 6, 9. Those were the numbers that always repeated themselves. And 3, 6, 9, of course, are the spiritual numbers. You can look up Nikola Tesla's. They are the divine numbers, and all the other numbers are the like earthly numbers. So we have the 3, 6, 9 connection. But that's just one thing. I'm a Virgo. Okay, I'm a Virgo. I analyze and analyze everything. Also check the composite chart to see how the connection translates here. Again, please check my other videos that are going to come. I am going to show you examples with, for example, celebrity couples. But we find, so this is more theory. You will see me actually doing it in other videos. And then Sun, Moon, we're talking about composite charts. The Sun, the Moon, the rising sign or Venus in Cancer are a strong sign for strong soul bond, because in the composite chart, Cancer kind of symbolizes the soul connection, because the symbol of Cancer symbolizes the yin yang. That doesn't have to be that it's monadic twin flame, but it will show you if there's a strong soul connection. You will find that if you have a lot of Cancer going on, for example. Another thing that's very important, you don't really know that you're a twin flame until you have met your twin flame. You cannot go looking for a twin flame. They come into your life unexpected, and your whole life will change as well, your entire outlook on life. Like all of a sudden, like boom, they're there and everything's different. Within a short period of time, you will feel like a completely different person. Absolutely. And remember, every soul connection is special. A divine counterpart does not have to be a twin flame, and it is not less special if it isn't a twin flame. And there's no elite. All souls come from the same source. We saw that earlier. And different is never less. That is only a concept of the ego, that one connection is less than another. The big difference is that twin flames, I'm talking about monadic twin flames, and to an extent also split twin flames, chose to go through a massive spiritual awakening and ascension process, which is the primary reason they meet. Union is secondary, but still part of it, and they all can have it if they do the work. If you want a perfect romantic relationship, shadow work may still be required though, and not all of the ascension process that usually takes years to be fully integrated. Remember the giraffe? You should not wish for a twin flame, but for another high-level soul connection, like a soul twin or a mirror soul. If you are in a true divine counterpart connection, there will be a rapid awakening and or ascension process. Like rapid. You may have developed, we all develop, okay, but this is like, I don't know, on steroids or speed or whatever. I've never taken drugs, so I cannot imagine what it is, but it's massive, okay? If you're constantly mad at the other person, if you blame then you either are at the very beginning of your divine counterpart journey, like a very beginning. You may have years ahead if you don't do the work. If you may have decades ahead if you don't do the work, or this person is not your twin flame. It's simple as it is. And true divine counterpart connections are loving, and you learn due to the awakening and ascension process that the other person is never to blame for anything. They are your mirror. If you get mirrored something you don't like, then work on yourself. If you want your personal analysis of you and your person's horoscopes, then let me know. You will find the contact information on my About Me page in order to book your own very detailed and thorough analysis, or of course mentoring. Don't forget to share and like this video, subscribe and click the bell icon, and please check out my other YouTube channel, Monadic Twin Flame and Soulmate Coaching. In this channel I do pick a card readings and readings for divine counterparts. And yeah, that is it, and it has been very long, and it has stopped. Why has it stopped, and when has it stopped? Oh, it hasn't stopped yet. Okay. Sorry. I wish you all the best, okay? Bye-bye.